Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to FutureKonnect webinar organized by RealtyNXT. I'm Radhanjali Rawal and I'm host for this webinar. First of all, I would like to welcome all the panelists and our moderator for today's webinar. Today on panel we have Mr. Rohit Poddar, Managing Director, Poddar Housing, Mr. Raheja, Director, Raheja Realty, Mr. Omar, Gull, Head of International Sales and Marketing, Emaar, Dubai, Mr. Himanshu, Sirohi, Head of Digital Marketing, JLL. This session will be moderated by Mr. Govind, co-founder, Insomniacs. To all the attendees who have joined us, if you have any questions, please share in Q&A box. We will take the questions post-discussion. And before we begin, I would like to inform you that we will be recording this session. Today, the topic of the panel is automation in sales and marketing, the future of real estate selling. Now, I would request Mr. Govind to please take it forward and start the discussion. Thank you.
Govind, you're on mute.
So thanks a lot, Radhanjali. I believe we have a great panel here and you guys have done a great job in terms of curating the whole session. I believe the topic we have here, we have stakeholders representing each and every strata of real estate here today. So Ram represents, he's a third generation, representing Raheja, which are very active into the, big ticket sizes, housing, luxury housings. Mr. Rohit Poddar, who is known and is a very non-name into the mid-segment and affordable housing segment. Omar represents Emaar and one of the brands, one of the leading brands globally in terms of, and he represents the international stage for it. And Himanshu here represents JLL. So we have, as you see, very diversified platform, the kind of people we really needed to do this conversation with. So without much further ado, let me get started with my first question, guys. If you guys all are ready, and since our attendees are, so I believe, can I shoot my first question for today?
For sure.
Okay, so I'll start with a very simple question which is something that everyone is thinking through. Every real estate developer or realtor is just thinking about this particular element. Going forward, do you really think our home buying cycle, previously which was all about getting the calls, getting the leads, then the calls, site visit, repeated site visits, and the booking. But do you think after this period where people are getting used to this virtual interactions and virtual walkthroughs, there will be a scenario when after the leads are generated, when the calls will be made, customers are going to ask for virtual walkthroughs, and probably previously when they used to see 15 homes or 10 homes before scouting for their dream home, will they now filter the 7 or 5 homes at the virtual walkthroughs level only, and they will limit their site visits to only few of them? Do you see this trend pitching in or coming in into the future in India or globally? Ram, I would want you to start if you can.
So yeah, definitely there is going to be a change in the near future. Hopefully going further into the times which, where we're able to fight this war of COVID and come out of it, it would not remain. But in the near future, definitely there is going to be that difference. Especially talking about the luxury segment, we usually have a face-to-face interaction most of the time with our buyers. They come over for a cup of coffee, then we discuss the project, we show them the project. Then if they're interested, we take it further. But that phase, that initial phase of them coming over just for a cup of coffee is going to be gone now. So now we're going to have to, only once we send them a virtual walkthrough of the project, video call with them, once they actually, only if they're interested and like the project, will they come and sit across the table with you. They're not going to just, so that, the launch where you call for so many people, that concept is gone in the near future. Hopefully, eventually it will come back. But for now, definitely it's going to be the first touch point will be automated, after which we'll take it into the physical.
So there is a fortunate yes, that's a belief system that there will be a scenario of it. What do you think, Mr. Rohit, is going to be the future for us here?
So from an affordable housing perspective, it's the single biggest decision they've taken in their lives.
Right.
I don't actually see in the new normal in the short term buying patterns changing at all. People are not going to buy an apartment online unless they come and see the apartment and the project. I think, in fact, now you'll have more cannibalization of demand to the established and trusted brands. And I think first-time developer or a small project will have a very difficult time in actually selling at all. So I don't actually see things changing. In fact, I think buying decisions get postponed until comfort is established in the old way. Eventually, if technology is able to provide a sufficient experience, then of course it'll play a bigger role. But the fundamental decision of buying won't change until they come and see the project.
Yeah, we believe, Rohit, Mr. Rohit, I believe you're absolutely right there in terms of the touch feel, in terms of buying the home is going to be remaining there. But do you think the filtration process, a customer who was going to 10 houses or 15 houses before, now will filter 5 or 6 houses on the virtual level itself, and then maybe he will visit only 5 or 10 houses? Will that be a scenario? Will there be a scenario where we'll see lesser site visits because there'll be very filtered cloud coming in on the site? On that trend is where do you think that is going to happen?
Well, my friend from JLL is actually on this chat, so he'll actually be very happy to know that digital marketing is actually, driving the future of lead generation in any case, whether it's for the channel partner, whether it's for whether it's through our direct channels as well. 75% of even affordable housing buying today is taking place through channel partner networks. Right. So I think that even though it's very important to have digital marketing and to spread the knowledge of the project. Ultimately speaking, why is a customer choosing a channel partner to buy through? Because they trust the channel partner. They think that they get a good deal. The channel partner will show them 3 or 4 different projects, but advise them in the right manner. So I think that more important. I mean, it's important to actually have communicating through the web and through different electronic media, digital platforms to educate the customer. But ultimately speaking, the customer needs reinforcement from XYZ place. So either that'll happen through the brand penetration, or it'll happen by the customer going through a tried and tested portal or a digital medium of some known person. So JLL are doing a good job. So Anarock, so other people, because of the fact that they have an established brand, and customers trust their view that this is a global company or this is a important channel partner. They won't be selling unestablished project from an unestablished developer. So I think that reinforcement is important.
Absolutely.
But I think it's too early to say how the customer behavior will actually change. And remember now, before a customer even visits a site, that you have Magic Bricks and other portals like this, and customers tend to go through a lot of this research online before they actually even come to the site visit. So they come very prepared, knowing fully well what other developers are offering, what other projects are offering from an amenity perspective, prices in that location, the positives and negatives of that location. So I think we've already reached a stage where people have gone from print to digital, largely, and the response to digital is huge because you have phones now, which are smartphones, and everything's being pushed to that.
Absolutely, no doubt about it.
Someone was asking me the other day, you're sitting in Alibag because of social distancing. How many advertisements have you recollected in the newspaper over the last 2 weeks? And I thought about it for a good minute or two, and the answer was actually 0. I don't remember any thing. So that's the answer. Everything's going to be digital for sure. But I think that customers will still go through the filtration process like they were doing before.
Absolutely. And Omar, what do you think? Based on whatever that we have studied about US markets, the Dubai markets, you already have been witnessing these changes in terms of the virtual walkthroughs is now a new norm here. But in Dubai markets and all, it has been there. So what's your take? Are you already experiencing it since the markets have already opened up there in Dubai? So what do you think is the real scenario right now?
I've been experiencing digital walkthroughs even when I was working in India from 2011 to 2015. So I'll divide the question into 2 parts. One, you asked if the customer is going to filter. They already did. Architectural visualizations did exist in 2D rendering format and video walkthrough format. Those were already there. Location-based shortlisting was already done. So customer would eventually zero down to 3 or 4 projects, and because we still do not operate on fixed price policy in India, there is some sort of negotiation which a customer feels he can come to the site and do and possibly get some sort of deal out of it. So the process is more or less going to be the same. During COVID, I don't know how many developers are going to be brave enough to launch projects, but those who launch have no option but to be online. They have to do meetings on Zoom if they want to do their initial meetings, but I don't see a lot of launches happening. a majority of the developers have a inventory overhang. They're getting a good breathing to sell it off. But over a long run, like Ram said, and even Rohit added, over a long run, yes, the behavior is going to change sooner or later, but I don't see it anytime soon because of COVID. It was a general progression of any industry. We are going to move towards a more digital approach where possibly the first 3 or 4 meetings happen online, and then a physical one meeting, or sometimes not even that, because at the end of the day we sell off plan, and off plan is not ready. So even when you meet, it's just a meeting. You cannot physically see anything but a sample unit which may or may not represent the real project. And that's where brands come into play. So when you're an established brand, when you're giving a sample unit or an architectural visualization in any people trust it. People trust that you're going to deliver because they've seen 10, 20, 30 projects that you've already delivered, and the kind of projects that you deliver.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Omar. Himanshu, while asking you the same question, I will also add one more question to the same thing, which is an attribute of the question we're discussing. What are the changes that you see in the pre-sales functions because of you? If in case virtual sinks in, your regular call center guys are not going to be the same guys who can pull off this kind of session on virtual platform, right? They need to have a lot of know-how. So how do you think that at JLL or the people that, clients you're working with now, you're taking mandate businesses as well. So how do you think the pre-sales function also are going to be impacted because of this? How should the developers and realtors prepare themselves?
Sure. So see, the whole process of virtual tour or even the technology, this is not something new that we are seeing.
Right.
It has existed for 5-6 years. There was a lot of excitement in the whole real estate industry when this technology came. And people thought eventually that the home buying decision will happen actually online, which never happened, because this is such a major decision in every individual's life that this whole process cannot be only digital. So phygital experiences is something that we have to look at.
Right.
So this whole process, such virtual tours were used mostly by overseas investors who wanted to shortlist a few properties earlier, because there was this problem wherein they could not come and visit the property. And later on, when it was the sales process or they were in the advanced stages of the funnel, they used to visit the property. Now, the reality of the new world that we live in is the physical interactions are limited now. So obviously, you will definitely see the number of drop-ins to the physical sites. They will definitely get reduced. Virtual tours definitely have to increase. But now you have to look at this problem from two sides. One was the buyer side, wherein this was a major decision in the buyer's life. The other side is the seller side. There's a cost implication to it. The whole virtual reality AR is not cheap. So there's a lot of technology involved. There's a lot of licensing costs, drones, and then augmented reality, 360-degree cameras. So a lot of cost goes into these virtual tours. The other part is sellers, what they used to think was, the earlier thought process was, the buyer is not really serious in case he's not willing to visit my physical site. So that mindset is also going to change now, post-COVID. So definitely you'll see more interest in virtual reality, more virtual tours coming in, more developers, more sellers investing in virtual tours. But the buying process, as we said, it cannot be completely digital since this is such a big decision. Now, in terms of the sales cycle and the process is how these are going to change. So again, let's talk about how we used to run digital marketing in the pre-COVID or probably 5-6 years down the line before. What we used to do was we used to probably go to an agency or hire an in-house team, probably invest in a couple of channels such as Facebook or Google or a couple of other channels. And we used to generate some leads. These leads used to visit your website. There used to be an army of call center, people sitting in call center, they used to call these leads. And then that's somehow you will get about 10% of those leads turning up for site visits. And that's what the industry had been moving for over the year. The analytics part was not really there. We were not really mapping offline data to online data. That investment was not being done. So you will see greater emphasis now, developers and sellers investing more in analytics. So this end-to-end process, investing more in their CRM systems, investing more in getting the lead on the website using various media optimization channels. So pre-sales process, you'll see a lot of investment in that. Earlier, you used to just hire an agency and you used to directly invest in the media channel. Now you will see developers investing in machine learning and artificial intelligence tools to kind of manage and optimize their media channels, and then mapping that media tool interaction for every single channel and every single touch point on your website to your call center, wherein the CRM will be connected to your website. So every interaction on the website will now get connected. So that investment, which was long due, and e-commerce we saw that was already investing in it. You'll see real estate now getting into action and kind of investing more into technology now.
Thanks a lot, Himanshu. I believe I'm picking up two things that you have mentioned already. One is FutureKonnect and one is CRM. So we will be talking about these two also a little bit into the detail today into the session, that what does the CRM should be really looking like? What CRMs that we have in India, or in the global markets as well, are they going to suffice or not? But before that, let me pick up the the word that you use, which is FutureKonnect. My second question will roam around that particular element. Now let's go toward and start moving towards the automation, for the reason that we all are here. Do you really think into the physical experiences that we create on the sites? So Rohit, in terms of what you have in affordable segment, or Ram is already into the luxury segment, so he might be already using it. Emaar is already definitely is using these and is ahead on the curve. So do you really think the interactive technologies, the multi-touch technologies and the voice-driven technologies, the adaptations of these technologies are going to be the new thing? Are the developers going to invest more money onto these experiences where they can ensure better hygiene, they can ensure better interactivity with the customer with minimal touch points, considering the COVID situation continues because there's no medicine yet? By end of the December, this can be a scenario with which we have to live with. So what do you think on the site level, once the market opens up, in terms of technology integrations, that the developers would be, ready to integrate without any, further ado on that?
Absolutely. Again, I'll again mention one thing. E-commerce has been leaps and miles ahead of real estate when it comes to personalizing the whole user experience for an individual. Whether it be an offline experience wherein someone comes to your house and you are able to track where your package exactly is. So your entire process, right from where they acquire a lead to the final delivery and getting the feedback and reviews up, everything is so automated. Real estate has somewhere lagged behind e-commerce in that aspect. The other piece wherein you will see a lot of e-commerce companies investing is in personalization. So earlier, we used to invest a lot in real estate marketing to acquire leads. A normal click, if you look at on Google AdWords or on Facebook, on Google AdWords, if you are a new company and you have just started investing, a click ranges from somewhere between 50 rupees to 150 rupees when you are trying to customer to land on your website. So that every click is associated to a cost. Now personalizing the experience for every single click, whether it be from Facebook or Google, will become very, very important. That has somewhere been ignored by the industry, and we will work a lot on the stickiness of the website. Whenever you land up on an e-commerce store, what happens is, whether it be an Amazon or a Flipkart, the whole experience of your journey gets personalized. Right from where you land, the e-commerce website knows what is the kind of campaign they ran and what is the kind of products you might be interested in, either based on your past behavior or on the basis of the campaign that they ran. Similar way, we as as real estate, we will also be changing a lot of things now going into the future. We will be personalizing experiences on the website on the basis of campaign we run. An example can be if I am running a campaign, maybe for high-end properties, targeting maybe fashionistas on Facebook, for maybe targeting anyone who has liked a magazine such as Vogue. The moment they land on my website, I'll be personalizing the entire experience on the website to show them the kind of properties they might be interested in. This whole experience has been missing from real estate websites. That is one. The other piece is connecting this online experience with the offline experience, mapping this data set to your CRM, which I just mentioned. The CRM executive who calls, and then finally the broker who ensures that is there at the time of the site visit. All of these individuals should exactly know who this customer is, which was the channel from which this customer was acquired, what was the kind of interest or the kind of ad what was the messaging of that advertisement, which was said to this customer, what was promised to this customer, what was the kind of properties this customer visited on your website. All of that data points should be available in your CRM system. That is one of the things that we as JLL, we are trying to work on, mapping that entire journey and then transferring that onto our physical sales team so that they exactly know what is it that the customer asks. So this will be the age of advisors rather than real estate brokers now. We should know what the customer exactly wants.
Absolutely. It's a great insight. But in terms of the CRM functions, of course, I believe I can see there's so much that needs to be changed, and you're already voicing that out. Parallelly, at this point of time, I would want to know the viewpoint with regards to Ram, Omar, Mr. Rohit, in terms of the site, on-site experiences, physical experiences, as Himanshu also mentioned, the phygital experiences, how the technology will change as per the question that I had asked. Omar, if you could get started, you already, Omar is at it already for a while. What do you think the new changes that you're going to be witnessing?
Himanshu, my friend, is very optimistic when he's thinking that it is going to be an age of advisors. In the more evolved markets that we see in the world, 100% sales happens through agents, because this safeguards buyer. It's not only for the process of buying, and at the same time, home purchase is not something that an average buyer does 20 times, so he has practice. When he's doing it for the first time, it's getting a third party who has multiple options and gives a neutral opinion brings in a lot of trust. So I would add to what Rohit said earlier. Right now, also, even in the affordable and mid segment, he's seeing 75% of the sales happening through brokers. And like I said, in evolved markets, it's upwards of 90, and in the most evolved, it's about 100%. I'll come to one of the examples of one of the developers who actually sold a lot during COVID. One of the largest developers in the world is Evergrande. It's a Chinese developer with a revenue upwards of $50 to $70 billion. In February, on 18th February, they launched a project and they sold $6 billion worth of inventory, about 40,000 units. So it's not that real estate has not been evolved. It's just that in India, real estate is highly fragmented. There aren't institutional players. The developer that I'm talking about roughly delivers about 200 to 300,000 units in a year. And I don't think there is hardly any developer who would have developed 200,000 or 300,000 units in lifetime. So with the amount of data that we have, with a developer who's in a year selling maybe 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 units, it's too small to engage artificial intelligence and other smart tools and data analytics to a level where it can lead to any sort of transaction. Coming to another point of Govind, see, technology integration, even though brokers are a channel, doesn't mean that technology is something that we can give a backseat to. Our brokers, who are our distributors, also need these collaterals to distribute. So when we have a 3D walkthrough, the broker uses it. When we have a CRM tool, the broker also uses it. So the entire automation system where a broker registers his lead, so the entire life cycle management of a lead and whatever amount of automation can be done, brokers should, through the system, be able to do that. And similarly, the sales advisors. And a unified CRM system is the need of an hour. In fact, I think it should be done yesterday. It's not something which we have to do in the future. The moment digital marketing started, it was required.
Lovely, Omar. A unified CRM is a keyword that we'll catch onto, and we will be getting back onto the same once we discuss CRM in detail. Ram, meanwhile, your take on the phygital experiences of the future.
So I agree with Omar in many ways that when it comes to digital and things like that, India in general is a very the whole concept, especially for residential sales. It's all about creating security, right? The whole experience is, even for someone to come to your office today, you have to give them the experience of they're safe and secure during these times to come in. So first step is we're taking to make sure that once we open up, everything is perfectly sanitized. We have sanitization tunnels. Our sales teams are completely, completely healthy. Our whole site is completely healthy. So that experience has to be there. Coming to whether it has to be digital to this thing, we're looking at a point where the paycheck that you cut, the item that you're buying, when you're looking at regular your retail marketing and things like that, you're buying the most expensive thing that you've ever bought.
Absolutely.
Real estate is the biggest paycheck you're cutting in your life. So when you're doing that, it's a very, very emotionally driven process. So emotion plays a very big role. So when we cannot completely disconnect the human interaction. The human interaction is the key. To attract someone, yes, you have to go digital right now in these times. And we've always been going digital and you'll continue to go digital. But the actual closure of a deal is definitely required to be face to face. And for the person needs to feel safe and secure to actually come to a point of investment.
Lovely, Ram. So I believe one of the questions that our attendees were also asking was, do you think the future to be the physical interface will go away or not? I believe the panel is going towards or hinting towards the physical interface is definitely going to be there. Virtual would just help a little bit to filter it down. So, Mr. Rohit, I will reiterate the questions. Into the affordable segment and mid segment, the customers need that touch feeling, right? They need to talk to their homes before they buy it. They need to converse with their kitchen if that's big enough or not. But in terms of your experiences, do you think technology will play an important role keeping the hygiene in check till December, maybe till the time the medicines are not there? What are the technological uplifting that you will do on your sites, probably? Or maybe you will continue with the same thing. What do you have in mind in terms of that usage of technology on site?
So technology on site is a function of human behavior and expectations that arise out of that behavior. Behavior has definitely changed, not now, but forever. People are going to be spending a lot more of their money and intellect on how they're going to stay safe, healthy, and live longer. So there'll be a general shift towards basically anything that is perceived to be of higher quality and higher hygiene. So whether they come to the site or to buy a product from us, or whether they go to a shopping mall, or whether they'll go anywhere else, they'll always gravitate now towards the safer option, right? So this is a change in human behavior, I think, which will last, for the foreseeable future, not just until COVID basically disappears. And remember, if COVID's going to disappear only by December as a hope, then you have 9 or 10 months of a large change in how they operate their day-to-day lives. And this is, they say it takes 21 days to make a habit, right? So this is like a habit formation over a period of 9 months. So I think that you'll have habit formation taking place in these 9 months that will drive people towards safety, security, and hygiene in general. So that's the overall trend. Now, sorry, 1 second. Just give me 1 minute.
Sure. So meanwhile, I believe Omar and Himanshu, my next question, you guys would be able to address pretty well. And then I would want to know if Ram and Mr. Rohit also have a take on this one. So I'm picking up from where Omar had left, and Himanshu had also mentioned a little bit. So a very small discussion on what do you mean by a unified CRM? What do you think that currently the CRM space is missing? In my previous session, I was just attending an MCHI webinar. I was giving my webinar. Many questions were coming on CRM. What is a perfect CRM? And there was an article that I read in US as well, 2 days back, where there's a big uproar happening in terms of which CRM system to use. No CRM is a complete solution. There are so many other multiple interfaces that sales and marketing teams are using that it's really confusing. And either the data is flowing in from one setup to other, and there's so much of manual intervention. So what do you think is a unified CRM, and what kind of automation that we really need in this space, and what are the advancements that you would need to complete and make a CRM as a whole? So Omar, I'll start with you, and then Himanshu, you can pitch in on the same question.
Actually, there are many good CRM tools around the world that I've seen. Basically, I'll give you an example. If I look at CRM, what do I look at? I look at a CRM where the moment a lead is captured through any of the digital channels, automatically a call gets connected. There is a dialer plugged in that connects the salesperson. Whichever of the sales guy answers, the moment he answers, it connects to the customer. So this entire thing should not take more than a minute or two, or maximum 3 minutes, provided the customer answers. And the probability of a customer answering is highest at the time he's clicking on ads. That means he's sitting free, and he remembering what he's inquired for and why he inquired for that particular project. Because the moment he inquires for your project, what will happen is he'll start getting 200 ads. Because of the nature of digital channels, his interest category will become real estate. He'll start getting real estate ads, and because he's in somewhere in the buying cycle, he'll start inquiring.
Right.
It's a National Association of Realtors research, which says 96% of the time, the person who calls the first, the customer sticks to that person. And if the person calling is a broker and has multiple options, this percentage even can be higher. The second figure that National Association of Realtors put is only 17% people make a follow-up call.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And third and fourth follow-up is less than 1 or 2%. So that's another thing. It needs to be driven by the system. The moment you will let a human do it, and they are going to cause problems, because one thing which we've neglected in real estate forever, I've spent a decade and I've been very connected with Indian real estate. Even now we have projects in India. One thing that every real estate developer in India has neglected is training. You go outside India, you will see a small boutique broker with 7 people getting trainings on objection handling, negotiation, convincing a tougher customer, financial negotiation. We don't do these trainings. We don't even do basic trainings on how to make phone calls. Then we transfer our calling to a call center and hope the call center is going to do magic, where an agent who's possibly not well equipped to sell real estate is attending a call and saying, do you have money, and asking awkward questions to the customers. So all of this can be automated. For example, if the customer doesn't answer an automated message, are you interested to buy? What time would you want the sales executive to call? The customer will reply with the time, and it comes in the CRM system, and the CRM system automatically throws the call. So what we do is we pick up the large companies. They have a vanilla tool. We put a vanilla tool with very less scope of customization and get stuck with whatever they have. And it is mostly made for banking in most cases. They've just replicated a few forms to design it for real estate. That's what's required. So a highly automated, and I wouldn't say intelligent, but I would say automated to an extent where the human dependency is reduced to bare minimum. He just needs to sit on a computer and talk.
Lovely, lovely, Omar. So Himanshu, do you really think that, because the next topic that I'll be bouncing off to the whole panel would be how are we interpreting data? So is automation in terms of how we are reading the data and the insights that can come with regards to the interaction our platform does with the customers, with our channel partners, can there be any automation possible, and can the unified CRM that we're talking about in the future should have these attributes as well, or not?
Yeah. So there are a lot of evolved CRM systems in the market right now. If you look at a couple of Fortune 500 companies such as Salesforce, they have already come up with CRM solutions which are evolved to the level wherein you can map your physical experiences to your online experiences. Now, what I mean by that is, one, as Omar said, one of the most important functions of a CRM system is, one, auto dialing, two, creating processes for follow-ups. So there has to be a queuing system in the CRM wherein after how many days the call automatically, a task gets created and automatically happens after a certain number of days. So that follow-up and auto dialer process is very important. The second piece is the robustness of the CRM. How do you manage your supply side inside of your CRM? All your inventory units these days can be managed inside of CRM. So rather than keeping them in your Excel files or keeping it on FTP files on your website, you can manage all of that inside of your CRM systems so that every lead gets mapped to a particular inventory unit that you are gunning for. So this is how, as Omar said, the sales team has to get evolved, and they have to be trained enough to understand which are the sort of inventory units you want to gun after or go after for every particular customer. The point that I will want to make with respect to CRMs is we in real estate, or probably in other industries, even as insurance, wherein the final conversion usually happens, or most of it happens when there's an advisor, and the experience there's a degree of trust that you have to give. So the CPL, that's the cost per lead metrics, is a dummy metric, because you can generate some 100 leads or 1,000 leads from a particular channel, and you might not end up converting one of them. and probably a channel might be giving you 5 leads, and you might be converting 2 out of them. And real estate being the kind of sector wherein the ticket size is huge, you will always want to invest more on those sort of channels. Now, how do you map that automatically? How do you map your media with your physical experiences? That's a key question, and that is where we always struggled in lead-driven models. Fortunately, we in today's era have CRM systems which can map your FTP, that is your website inventory, plus your media with your backend CRM calling feedback. So that feedback can be given various weightages now in the evolved CRM systems, such as you can give a +5 to a lead which is qualified, +50 to a lead which got converted or came for a site visit, and a negative score to a lead or which was not qualified. So this way you are kind of managing your inventory. You are getting feedback of the leads, and you are mapping it via FTP files to your media. So every click is attributed to the final physical feedback, and that's how you can automate your media buying experience. So the ROI gets calculated there itself. So this is how we should actually evolve as an industry.
Absolutely, Himanshu. I totally agree with you. I believe in my previous session, I was exactly talking about the similar topic. Are we able to track our ROIs in every platform or not? So what you mentioned, suppose when you mentioned Salesforce, I think that one thing that I wanted to tell the audiences and you as well, see, from where we see Salesforce as well, they use multi-touch attribution as a regression modeling, right? But multi-touch attribution itself is not a very complete holistic program to map each and every media inputs and can give the proper outputs around it. That's the reason, we are moving towards automated marketing mix modeling to track the data in a better manner, because it's a better regressional test that, it has multiple variables that can be tracked upon. And today media space is being governed by multiple variables, right? This COVID as a function has to be added into our regressions as well, or the equation that we are setting in. So my question here, Ram and Mr. Rohit, is, we got an insight from, the two sales, from the sales perspective. The question that I had for you is, as the business owners, you look at CRM as a different function. Most of the places when we interact with the clients, the owners look at CRM in a different way. The team who uses it sees it in a different way. For you, it is a function that the team is using to ensure that everything is set in the process properly. But you love to have an interface for yourself, which can give you a quick download about what's happening around. How many site visits that you really had. How many site visits that can I expect tomorrow. So how do you look at the CRM functions of today? Do you think from an owner perspective, is there more scope where the CRMs can improvise in tomorrow and can add more automation? As just Himanshu mentioned, that we got to have a better system to rate our leads. So most of the times you do only hot, warm and cold. Can there be any other function that you believe your team has interacted with you? Or as an owner, you believe that CRM can have those attributes which can improvise your operations?
Ram, you want to go first, Ram?
You can take it.
Okay, so CRM is not only a sales generation tool, it's basically a platform to run your business.
Absolutely.
So you have to understand that there are many different things that go into a real estate business, right? And there's input versus output. So the quality of data entry is very important. And from both our perspective, we've run businesses now for 130 years in commodity manufacturing. So I think CRM has been in existence with us now for the last 25, 30 years across different companies of ours. So for us, it's really a question of how we run our business. Whether you have, what is your platform basically for ERP, and CRM, of course, is a subset of that. So we run everything basically on ERP across businesses, across verticals. And really, it's the times of COVID, the importance of that is actually paramount. Businesses that have robust ERP and CRM are able to function much better than people who are not. So for us, it's a normal part of doing business.
Right.
As far as CRM is concerned in particular, I think that both our marketing and sales experts have a lot of merit on what they're basically saying. The time has really come to analyze data really well, and there's really big data and analytics, so that the quality of interaction with the customer improves substantially. I don't think any system in India exists today that is mapping out in an intelligent manner how this is actually functioning. We've got experience now with different call centers with different people who are doing digital marketing for us, and it's a work in progress. So I think most developers now who are handling large numbers in particular and in affordable housing, as you can imagine, the numbers are in thousands, if not tens of thousands. The importance of actually having big data analytics is even more important, and the time to call customers back is absolutely key. So I actually agree with what Mr. Gull has actually said. We're all experimenting with various stages of implementation of this. And I think hopefully in the next 2 or 3 months, we should have a robust platform available that addresses big data analytics and customers' interaction in that manner as well. I think we're about 90% there as an organization, but the 10% is a big deal. Thanks.
Sure, Ram. So I will, based on what Mr. Rohit mentioned, I will ask one more question on top of what I've already asked. Do you really think that the CRM function, since there's so much of customer data already available, and I know that you take a keen interest in terms of the architectural designs that that gets done at Raheja. So in your project planning stages itself, do you really think this, the database that you have or the current customer base that you have, in terms of understanding their feedback on the feasibility report level itself, or planning your project even in a better manner, the CRM function can be used in, into doing quant analysis or quality analysis to yield better results? Do you think that kind of attributes you will need as an owner, or you want to utilize it? Or if not, what is the other thing that you'd want more?
So, we've discussed a very diversified platform in terms of how CRM can be used in different tools and different manners, starting from where the initial conversation started with sales. So CRM towards sales, and then going into the fact that you make calls to your customers and you go into actual interface where there's this thing. It really works in most segments, but luxury housing, when you're looking at sales between 5 crores and 25 crores, I have a slightly different opinion on things like your digital marketing and the way it's marketed. Because someone who's out there looking to buy an expensive apartment, or who's looking at that, they're really not interested in getting that call from a call center. The minute someone gets a call from a call center, the person will turn around and say, yeah, what's wrong with this developer? Does he need sales that much? So when you're trying to sell that ticket, it's very important that you market it right. You cannot be out there trying to push the product by generating calls and doing things like that. You gotta market it in a very subtle way, in a way that the customer will come to you when they're interested in buying that size of an apartment. You need to be there as a brand and as a product, but you can't be hitting the customer on every digital platform they open, on every in the middle of the meeting when they're sitting and they're getting calls. It actually backfires. I've experienced that in some cases. And coming to the point where you were discussing design and architecture, definitely. So CRM, basically, it's all about the customer, right? We are planning. The whole project starts at the planning stage, the whole concept of what is required. So if you're going to build something, if you haven't done your research and your data correctly, what is required in which market? If you're going to build, which earlier in real estate, there was a big gap in actual research of what a product is required in which market. So there was a time that, there's land, build it, it'll sell. It doesn't work anymore, because people have become much smarter. And also the fact is that any company, whether in every sector, people are doing a lot of R&D, a lot of research and development on what is required, whether it's Maruti, whether it's Mercedes. They're catering to a very different segment. But their R&D teams are very, very strong, understanding what product is needed, where it's needed, and how it has to be marketed. So and in fact, we're selling a product much larger than a car. We're selling the biggest paycheck. So we don't do half as much of R&D of how to actually market this product, which is a massive sale. So research is needed in the design phase as well. We have to understand what we need to build, where it's needed. If your site is at an X location, why you're going into that location, what is the demand supply, and that is the actual crux that drives what is required within. Now, we had a lot of concepts about how this whole COVID times will actually change the way we plan. So that half bedroom, the concept of the 2.5 bed or the 3.5 bed, that 180 or 110 square feet being dedicated to a home office, you'll see that changing so that will become a mindset that why not create that? Why not give that option? So absolutely, you got to keep adapting with times, and also you got to do detailed research into what is required where. So if an area does not have a massive apartment of say 3,000 square feet, and there is a demand for it, you see a lot of people connecting two flats, then you can go on the fact and saying, yes, if I develop something here with that size, it will sell. So you gotta be, so when you're coming to your question, asking you that, does it go, do you take CRM? Yes, CRM is a version of actually understanding your customer.
Absolutely, Ram. This was really good. And based on whatever that we have discussed so far, so we have discussed experiences in virtual, we have discussed on-site experiences, we have discussed how the automation in terms of the CRM space, what is the new evolution that is needed. Based on the consensus, one thing that I can definitely tell, there's a huge scope of improvisation into this particular space. Now, I believe Himanshu has something to add as well, but with that, I'll also add one more interesting question. Before this would be the second last question for the session before we open the round for the attendees' questions. So my question here it is, in terms of the data, right? Omar mentioned that channel partners are contributing to 90% of the sales and 100% at places of the developers who are really involved. My question is, are we at Emaar or are we at Poddar housing, at JLL, at Raheja? What are we doing to track our channel partner engagement with us? So is it your people who are responsible one-to-one basis? Are there systems in place which is mapping everything? Ex realtor who's a channel partner of yours, they have 5-member teams, and which member is performing better? Are you tapping into those informations as well in terms of knowing which channel partner or broker of yours is really passionate about you, in which season they really didn't perform? Are you guys reviewing it at the back end? Is there any automation that you already have at the back end with you? If you have it, we have the sessions, those people who are attending, they would love to know about it. So I will open it with Himanshu, and then Omar, and then Rohit and Mr. Ram can take over. Yeah, Himanshu.
Yeah. So in fact, yeah. So the CP whole network, since most of the selling that happens happens via these channels, and digital is still, whether we like it or not, is still a very small part of it. So most of those engagements have to be really tracked, and we do in fact. And since we have recently started taking mandates and we're into the mandates business, we work very closely with our channel partners. We try to map every individual channel partner's contribution to a particular project, and we try to attribute that what is the kind of impact that channel partner has got us in the project. The impact might not be translated directly into sales, but there's a degree of involvement that a channel partner has, and which eventually leads to sales. So the number of leads that a channel partner has given you, the number of site visits that have, so the whole sales process or the funnel has to be mapped together. And again, if you are able to map that entire journey, you are able to track that entire engagement, then only you can effectively measure the efficacy of that channel partner, and then track your referral program or the kind of incentives you plan to give out to a particular channel partner.
Great, Himanshu. Thanks a lot. Omar, if you could just put some light here. Omar, you are on mute right now.
There's a massive scalability problem when it comes to your own team. You can hire 50 people, 500 people, but there's a time when you got to stop. Your SG&A goes off the roof. But what I think, there is no limitation to scalability when it comes to brokers and broker employees. They're all across the world, and there was somebody asking a question which I just happened to see in a notification, and there is an unorganized brokerage vertical which we call referral, which is so big that eventually it all needs to be consolidated, or there is no way it can be efficient. Broker employees should be mapped, their performance should be mapped, brokers' marketing activities should be mapped, their engagement, their site visits, their leads should be mapped, and they are being done. I know only one developer I know of in India that does it to a very huge extent. But other than that, yes, it's not done. But again, the bigger problem is it requires so much investment into technology that we don't have developers of that scale operating at a volume of 20,000, 30,000 units a year. So giving an example, Related Group is one of the largest developers in the world. It's a private developer, but still does revenue upwards of $15 billion. Their total sales team is less than 20 people. So they're only able to do it with very efficient channel partner, what we call it in India, or broker management, and mapping their activities, training them through the same tool, providing them the collaterals and the tools to sell. And at the end of the day, providing them inventory, they're giving them an access to book the unit themselves, do all the related paperwork, generating a SPA, or what we call a sales and purchase agreement, offer to purchase. Everything has to happen through a unified system. So as long as that is not done, it is very difficult to work with 1,000 brokers at the same time. So as long as you're working with 20, 30, 50, maybe 100 brokers, it is possible to do it manually to some extent. Inefficient, but still possible. But when your scale exceeds 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 brokers, you cannot do it manually.
Great. That's a great insight, Omar. Could you just repeat the name of the brand that you mentioned? Related. Okay. We will look into it for sure. This is a great insight. Mr. Poddar, if you could give some insight on the same, if you could, in terms of channel partners, what is the traction that you have with channel partners? You've already mentioned it once, but how do you engage with them, and have you automated this process of yours so far?
Automation occurs after a relationship with the channel partners is basically formed. We're currently dealing with about 500 channel partners across our affordable housing and in-city projects now. Once the relationship is established, then of course automation takes over. But the human interaction can't stop. We have channel partner meetings in person. Senior manager also attends these meetings so that the trust is basically built. And more importantly, we get feedback from them on what's really happening in the market on a real-time basis. Because every developer will claim their business is the best. But what is the reality at the ground level? Unless you talk to 10,000 customers or the brokers handling 1 lakh customers, you won't really get. So how to now? So the process post that is already automated for us. But the process of getting data from these channel partners is still very much on human interaction basis. Of course, there's on Zoom, but there's no process in place right now to get intelligence from them. From like I said, from how Omar said about 3,000 or 4,000 brokers. How do you gather intelligence from them in a systematic fashion? I don't think anyone's doing this in the country right now, and I think that's the step for all of us.
Lovely. So Ram, what's your insight about? And also I'll add one smaller thing here. In terms of your engagement with channel partners, we have seen in luxury products, it has a higher life cycle, right, to sell. So there's a lot of cannibalism happening in current market, right? The project name are taken over by the channel partners as well. Sometimes it is being taken for you. It is great. Eventually the leads comes to you, you close them. And I've seen the developers are okay paying the brokerage, but there are times when it is cannibalized for some other developer, right? Name of your brand, but the leads coming in goes to via brokers to the other developers. So on this practice, what do you think that, do you guys address this one-on-one? And again, in terms of automation with the channel partners that you're operating with, of course, there will be the numbers will be much lesser than what Mr. Poddar said, right? Because it's affordable housing versus luxury. But how do you engage with them? How do you keep the interaction going on and automate it? How do you add the automation there?
So when we deal with channel partners, real estate is sold a lot. Most of our real estate is sold through channel partners, as most developers experience. But in luxury housing, it's a very micro market driven sale. So if I have a project going on in JVPD Juhu, my channel partners of that area are very different from the channel partners in Bandra. Although they're two micro markets that are right next to each other. They're not far apart, both western suburb, both similar ticket prices. But the local hold of a broker in a micro market is very, very different in our case, because buyers actually, there's that trust and build relationship with their own channel partners. And we have a lot of repeat channel partners that actually work with us. So if there's a broker that actually has had a great experience in terms of selling our product, no matter what, the minute we launch a new product, we have those brokers coming forward and bringing their own customers, giving the examples of what we've already done. Now, coming to automation of the same, things like your WhatsApp groups, things like creating the network within the brokers, that happens a lot. But when it comes to luxury housing, it's slightly different in that context.
But wouldn't you guys love to track insights in terms of
definitely the the feedback that we get out of all our channel partners is great. It's very, very important, as even Rohit was mentioning. The actual customer feedback comes through channel partners, because they're comparing your project to 3 other projects, right? And that same channel partner is actually walking them, because your sales team and you're sitting in your office, you're interacting with them in a single dimension. But the channel partner is actually taking them to the 4 offices and then coming to you. So what they preferred in one side or what they didn't prefer, see, nothing is perfect. Every project has some advantages, some disadvantages. So that actual feedback of what can be done better in the next project, that comes through our channel partners, which is a very important part of future sales.
Absolutely, absolutely, Ram. I believe we had a great insight so far in terms of the questions that we had decided, and I can see the board is getting filled with many questions. So I'll do one thing. We will start attending the attendees' questions, and Mitanjali, I will pass on the baton to you. If you could, get started in terms of asking the questions that people are asking. Yeah.
Yes, Govind, thank you very much. Thank you to all our speakers. So we have received an overwhelming response. We are really sorry that 200 attendees could not join us because we had a limit of 1,000 attendees. But we have received a lot of questions by them over the email. So I'll share that first. Then we'll be taking questions by attendees. For the next webinar, we promise that all the attendees that will be, who wants to be part of the webinar, we will really try, and for the next webinar that the limit is up to 500. So I'll start with the questions. First question is from Tanushri, Kolkata. This question is for Mr. Omar. What kind of automation we can expect in CP engagement?
I believe we have covered this question.
We just happened to
cover this one. Mitanjali, I believe we can go to the next one.
Okay, I'll just ask the next question. What are the new functions we should be expecting from our CRM in future? In short, how should they evolve? So, I would like to
cover this as well. I believe I can see a question here. I believe that has been asked from Aditya. He's asking, is there going to be a price war? It's a very small topic, and we believe we know the answer. So I will give it to you all. Is there going to be a price war after this, COVID situation? We definitely know that if there were 100 customers, then now there are going to be 50 customers only. So if there are going to be only 50 customers, do you think that there will be a huge price war to gain their attention into the real estate space?
Can I take this question, please?
Yeah. So the question is, do you think that there will be a price war post-COVID situation gets to a standstill? In terms of the developers cutting down the price to acquire the customer? Do you think that's going to happen?
So let me answer the question first from an overall perspective.
Sure.
In the last 6 weeks, you've seen a 50% erosion in most people's mutual fund portfolio. Right or wrong? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, people who saved money through SIPs over 10 or 15 years, they've seen a significant portion of that wiped away in 4 to 6 weeks. So you have volatility of a different proportion. People aren't going to forget this. Second, what's protected people in the last 6 weeks? Their home. Why has the investor moved away from real estate over the last 3 or 4 years? Because of laws that the government of India has passed regarding homes you can own, the number of homes you own, and tax write-offs for basically your EMIs, right?
Right.
And your interest payments for the year. I personally think, based on the feedback that we've gotten, and our Poddar Foundation also is running a volunteer network association of 600 counselors taking calls from all across the country for the last 4 weeks. The single biggest issue that has happened is that people have understood that their own home has saved their lives. There will be a massive change in the way asset is allocated going forward, and people will come back to real estate in droves, not in ones or two, but in droves post-COVID, because they will realize that they need to own their homes, right? So people will gravitate away from renting the houses, which has really been the trend of the millenniums over the last 5 or 7 years. And they will they gravitate emotionally towards buying their own home. So point number one. Point number two, you've seen people, we're all humans, we have emotion, logical, illogical. People have been sitting in a house for the last 6 weeks, cooped up with no social distancing within the house. It's not normal. People are normally used to working. They leave the house in the morning, they come back in the evening. They really spend time with each other over the weekends. So you have many people who are joint families who now want to be a nuclear family and own their own homes. So these two trends will basically create a huge demand in housing basically going forward, probably post the monsoons actually finishing, right? This is backed up by a lot of data. I can share data with you from our own call center, from counseling centers, from helplines, from what's been happening across the board. People are deferring their purchase at this point of time for two reasons. First, they're not sure about their jobs, and you have big unemployment. I think that'll take 2 quarters to basically come back to somewhat normalcy or knowing fully well where the future holds. So there will be a pushback on the buying decision immediately, right? Second, people like Sri Deepak Parekh made a statement that housing prices will come down by 15-20%. And Gadkari Saab has said, no, all developers should actually sell at cost. Just understand the context of what's been happening over the last 3 years and 4 years in real estate. Since demonetization, there's been a mandi in the real estate market, in simple parlance, which means that developers have been stressed, projects are available at very attractive prices, and margins are now down to 6, 7, 8, 9% for most developers. You can take a look at their balance sheets. So the chances of prices being cut further means that the projects can't get complete, right? So some developer or some selling agents offering you two apartments, or 3 apartments at the price of 2, or some such gimmick like this, the chances are that that developer won't complete the project, right? And then it become a radar case. So I don't actually believe that there'll be any significant price correction in affordable housing for sure. The number of credible people in affordable housing have become 15% instead of 100% over the last 3 or 4 years. And these developers certainly are not reducing prices. What may happen is that they may take customer consideration into account, share pain with the customers, try to see if they can bear interest cost over the next 1 year on the EMIs, things of this nature, give them staggered payments, work with the customers on payment schedules. These things can happen because of the fact that cash flow is affected for everybody, right? So these things can happen, but a radical reduction in price simply can't happen. Last point regarding a price war. When does a price war materialize? When basically there is a buyer in the market for a product, right? If there's a seller who now says I can sell at 50% of my previous price, but there is no price war. It's a seller with no buyer, right? So customers have to understand now more than ever before, and they have already understood that there are brands who basically have a promise of delivery and trust over the last many years. Those are the brands that should continue to be trusted, which is why big corporate houses are now in real estate and people are basically buying from them. Why Ram Raheja is a 3rd generation guy, why I'm a 11th generation businessman. There are many credible players across many micro markets.
Right.
And customers are now buying from them over the last 3 years. So there's no reason for this to change. If there's a small developer who just started off his business, he may be the best guy in the world, but chances are that his product won't actually sell because he has no track record in place. So the answer is no, there'll not be a price war. What can happen is that you may have developers that go bankrupt, whose projects get taken over by asset reconstruction companies, and a new financing mechanism gets worked out through State Bank of India, or whether HDFC comes in and starts a stressed asset fund. But remember, those will also get funded only if there's a profit. No one's going to enter into a project as a lender to lend to a project which doesn't have positive cash flow. In fact, State Bank of India fund as well only lends to projects where there's a positive cash flow, which basically means there's some profit. So that's my answer.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I believe, Mr. Rohit, you had a great insight. And I believe the viewers can understand the last 3-4 years, I believe there's no great appreciation in terms of the prices. So, of course, it cannot go down further. But how about the luxury space, Ram? What's your take on that?
In a way, as I 100 and 200% agree with what Rohit is saying, because the biggest fact is that residential real estate will come out as a silver lining post this entire phenomenon. That nomad culture had developed in general, like even in like your first home buyers were saying, why should I take the stress of an EMI? Why do I take the home loan? My FD is giving me certain percent. My home, I can rent the same value. For example, if I'm renting a house worth 6 crores in a lakh and a half a month in the city of Bombay, then why should I take the headache of that EMI? I'd rather spend 1 lakh. The FD is giving me more than that in my fund. So that nomad culture had come in a very big way, where people were saying, I'm not interested in buying. Even if I have the money or I have the capability of taking a home loan, I'm not interested. I rather rent it. Today I'm living in Bombay. Tomorrow I can live in Delhi. Today after I can live in New York. The nomad lifestyle had become a thing which the buyer had completely forgotten the old school sense of security of owning a home.
Absolutely.
This whole crisis that we're dealing with has come as a silver lining, that once we're past this phase, as Rohit said, few months down the line, when everything goes back into semi-normality, everyone, and even now, a lot of people who are renting in our micro markets have actually approached our sales team that, do you have anything ready? Do you have homes ready? That even if we can't afford a 3-bed, we don't mind your 2-bed. We're renting 3 beds, but we'll buy the 2-bed because that's the budget that they're looking at. So buyers are definitely in the market to buy. Price cuts are completely out of question because the margins have already are very, very slim. The costs that we're actually paying towards the premiums, towards taxations, the margins are very slim for any price cuts to happen. Maybe ready stock, which a developer needs to liquidate when he's fighting a battle within on his books that he needs liquidity, he might cut the price and sell. But that doesn't mean that the market is going to have a price cut from any angle.
Lovely, Ram. Vedantali, I believe you can take over for the next question.
Okay, so next question is from Raviraj Jairam. He's asking, will traditional open houses and touring a property with your real estate agent be replaced, and to what extent will it turn virtual from the listing to the showing and even signing documents?
Yeah, I think discuss the same.
Signing documents, I believe, is a good part of this question. I believe anyone who can pitch in, from where I know that signing of the documents is government driven, which is not. Do you think any progress that has happened, or in the future there's a possibility of automation in this space?
Yeah. So I'll just quickly brief you on this. We've been in touch with the Revenue Ministry and also Hardeep Singh Puri Saab in the last few weeks, as you know, through many Zoom calls. So the following, this is the following. Everybody understands that now there's a new normal and e-registration is very important.
Right.
So now there are 2-3 parts in this, so just bear with me for 2-3 minutes. It's a bit of a detailed conversation. What is the fundamental basis of a registration? It's a buyer and seller transaction that has a witness, right? The witness actually being the registrar in this case. So to just walk through the process of actual registration, you have a contract between the buyer and the seller, which is now vetted by RERA. In Maharashtra's Maharera, and another place will be done a different RERA. Once that gets vetted, you go to the registrar's office, you sign, and there's an electronic angutha that's really taken in by the registrar. Why is this? Because it's cross-verified. People who don't know, it's cross-verified with your Aadhaar angutha chap. So that the government actually is doing this now on an active basis to avoid Benami transactions as well and frauds. So that's point number one. After this gets done, an index 2 form gets generated with all the pertinent information basically of the buyer, including PAN card, Aadhaar card, and there's another verification that takes place at that point of time, which is then signed by the buyer, and another angutha chap is physically put on that. In some cases, a physical angutha chap. Okay, so this is the basic process. After which, the documents are basically uploaded and scanned by the registrar's office. It goes into a central depository of all such contracts. Okay, and before this, you're paying stamp duty. So stamp duty, registration in index 2 paper, and then you basically become the owner of the flat, either through self-funding or through home loan. Now the question became that when you have a COVID and you can't really do physical registration because the office is actually shut, can you do e-registration? So the question became, why can't we use the Aadhaar card as the basis of e-registration? Because the Aadhaar card already has your fingerprints. In fact, all the fingerprints, not just your angutha chap, right? So why can't Aadhaar card be used instead of your physical digital? You're physically giving your thumb imprint, right? And the answer is that the Income Tax Act requires that. So this requires the central government to change the rule. The state government can't enforce this even if they want to. On the 24th of last month, in the month of April, the government of Maharashtra had a cabinet meeting where they actually said we will start e-registration on an immediate basis. Now, for some people who don't know, e-registration has been on for like the last 3 years, but it hasn't worked very well at all. Even we have e-registration, in fact, in Poddar, and we were just about to start it before COVID came in. But by and large, it hasn't worked for the last 3 years for most developers who've had e-registration, and all the big developers who are doing volume have had this facility available also. So the government of Maharashtra is making an app that will basically allow you to have this 3-step transaction process over the next few days. Now we are asking as an industry 2 things. First, either you open up your registry offices, which you should do because there's a mandate now for all offices to open in government and to operate with 33% capacity. And if all offices are opening, why are registration offices not opening? So please open them immediately. side by side, please have an electronic app available that allows us to electronically register apartments. Now, from what we've been told today in the morning, there's one app for across all segments of registration, whether it's SRA or Mahada or residential or commercial or industrial or affordable housing. There's one app. Now the question will become, can one app handle tens of thousands of cases in a day? Will it actually work? Will it not work? What's the back end, and so on and so forth? It took auto DCR years and years and years to come. So there's a lot of mistrust in the fact that this will actually work very well. So the answers we'll have to basically see. We're requesting the authorities to please start e-registration as soon as possible. Somebody is saying it'll start in July. Someone is saying it'll start by the middle of June, but we're asking for it to start this week, right? So it all depends on when the app gets ready and how the app actually functions. And my guess is that it won't function particularly well over the next few weeks because there'll be glitches as there always are. So this is really where we are for e-registration and also basically for physical registration. Remember, once physical registration starts, there'll be social distancing in place as well. That a developer can send you a car and driver where two people can go to the registrar's office. Based on practicing social distancing norms, you should have a mask, you should have gloves, and of course there'll be norms of the same in the registrar's office as well. They'll radically reduce the number of people in the registrar's office. Please stay in your cars until you're called inside. So all this will happen hopefully in the next few days or the next 8 or 10 days. Thank you.
Well, that is a really brilliant insight, Rohit. I'll have just one question that hits my mind. You said last 3 years it has been active. It has not got much of success. Could you just summarize quickly what was the reason behind the not fetching right success?
So basically, it was actually limited to townships, and our affordable housing projects are in the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana scheme, which is why the prices are as competitive as they are.
Okay.
So we need to apply to the IGR in Pune, and they actually approve your case of yes or no. After which there's the whole process of basically training your people, and you have to get a dedicated line from BSNL. You can't get a private line from a Geo or XYZ operator. So you need to get a BSNL line. That takes time to happen. Then you need to get trained on that line. You need to test the efficacy of that line. You need specific software, and only one person in your office can be nominated to actually handle those registrations. So a lot has happened in the last 3 years, why it hasn't worked well. But now it is actually functioning all right in trials. And like I said, we were just about to start the registrations on from our own offices and then we had a lockdown. So I can give you an answer on this hopefully in the next whenever the lockdown gets removed or whenever the office is allowed to work. But the chances are that people who have a dedicated line can actually function. But that may solve the problem of Poddar, but it won't solve the problem of the industry at large. Everybody can't get a dedicated line because the numbers that the rule that exists right now, you need more than 1,000 apartments in a site to actually have a dedicated line, right? So that obviously can't function for most of the market because we're in affordable housing, we have the numbers. But Ram doesn't have 1,000 apartments in a site. It'll be the biggest project in the history of Mumbai. It'll be like Emaar scale in Mumbai if someone wants to have 1,000 apartments of luxury in Mumbai. It's never been done before. So the question is that they don't change that rule to allow maybe a smaller number. The number being debated right now is 50 apartments on a project, out of which 20 apartments are currently unsold.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thanks for the insight, Rohit. Yeah, Ravidanjali, you can take. I believe we can take now. We have limited time.
Yes, we have one more question. So question is, we depend a lot on digital marketing nowadays. All the details we can share to customers through mails and WhatsApp, videos and all. But the deal gets closed when the customer trusts the intact. So for getting this trust intact on the developer, what can be done?
Okay. I believe I'll just reframe it. It's a very intangible question, right? I don't think there can be a tangible answer to this one. But to build the trust, I believe after RERA, it is already happening a lot because now there's formidable rules which are put and every developer is trying to create a great synergy and intimacy. We have Omar as well here. I believe he can pitch in that, how on when you are dealing with customers all across the world, how this trust factor has been played out with Emaar. And Mr. Poddar knows from the mass segment housing background, Himanshu. Everyone can pitch in, I believe, in short span in terms of what is it that we are doing to build the trust with regards to, apart from delivery and quality construction, what are the other intangible ways to look at building up trust with the customers in this kind of atmosphere?
See, there is no substitute to delivery. At the end of the day, your product is what enables trust. Yes, experience plays a major role, but what we've also seen is See, Emaar, in terms of the real estate brands, is the most valuable real estate brand in the world. Only the name Emaar is worth almost upwards of $3 billion. So, however, it was primarily because of our delivery. It didn't have magnanimous marketing campaigns, sponsorships of football teams, buying an NFL team, having Super Bowl advertising. We didn't do any of that. So we delivered the tallest building in the world. We made the largest mall in the world. And even other than that, the of buildings that we made or we are making, they were all delivered the way it is promised. In fact, we take pride in saying most of our buildings look better than their renderings. So that's something which has been very commonly known for Emaar. But apart from all of that, brand building is an exercise which takes decades and sometimes even centuries for really good brands. So a couple of good marketing campaigns really cannot do much in it. It's a long-term process, and making a brand only through digital campaigns is impossible. It's not only for real estate, it is for any industry. Brand is a function of a lot of things. It's an experience, your friend's experience with a product. It also relates to what you hear about it. So a lot of PR is very important. Nowadays, a new form of PR, which is influencers, have come up who started marketing a product in a different way. So brand building is a 360 exercise where you cannot even single out any channel. You cannot purely build it on digital. Everything has to be done, and it takes a lot of time. But again, nothing substitutes delivery. I don't think anybody can build a brand and have a very crappy or bad delivery, poor delivery, and then expect to be a very well-known brand. That doesn't happen.
So Omar, while you were talking, I just stumbled upon a few things. Can this part of it, the trust building part of it, that also includes the engagement with the customers, your prospect customers and current customers, can certain part of it can be automated? Like, can we have a possibility where our latest constructions updates are coming to them regularly? Their homes, which people are really buying, instead of visiting on their own, they can be getting updated with those facets of the developments in automated way as well. Can there be any automation that can be added which can definitely ensure that there's a better communication channel between the customers with the customers, which can increase this trust factor? Is it too much that we are asking for?
Again, divided into two segments. So primarily what has been happening is whenever Rohit or Mr. Poddar, Mr. Raheja, they talk about it, they're talking about end user products, which is majority of Indian market. But majority of global markets, you talk about Dubai, you talk about Miami, you talk about New York, they're mostly investor markets. They're not end user markets. So in terms of end user market, the involvement of yourself, your family, your friends, everybody's opinions, and 200 questions come to your mind because you have to live with that decision. And whereas in Dubai operates through investor portfolio, 85% of the properties sold here are purely for investment purpose where buyers don't live. So you don't live with that investment. Your attachment to the decision is very small. So now when we talk about end users, so anybody who's buying, say, a 1 crore unit from Mr. Poddar, it's an end use unit. He's going to buy 1, 2, or maximum 3 houses in lifetime. So in his career from 30 to 70, he's going to buy maybe 1 house in 15 years. So this entire automation is not going to work for a buyer who's not going to be in the buying cycle for the next 1.5 decade or 2 decades.
Right.
This is an investor's market like Dubai, where a buyer can actually purchase every next project of yours and can show interest in every next offer of yours. This can play a major role. So even in India, we have many investor projects. However, it's still inclined more towards end user housing. But yeah, investors operate that way. They're always interested. I'm sure both of them have certain investors who always purchase some units in their buildings because of the trust, and they know it's going to get delivered. They get some early entry benefits into those projects, and they park their money. I want to add to something which was a part of previous question. Anytime the financial market gets turbulent in the world, even war zones, the real estate market typically tends to come up. The recent example is one of the best performing real estate markets in the world from last 4 years is Egypt. Egypt had a revolution, and after that a massive currency fall where Egypt currency fell week on week, it was falling 5%, 10%, but its real estate has been the fastest growing real estate market in the world consistently from past 3 years, with about 25-30% appreciation annually. So considering everything in mind, since this is the last question, I would just want to say a few things, because there were some questions directed to me. Price war has also been there. It's not something new. Business means price war. Nobody is ever, like our ministers recommended, selling at loss. Then why do a business? Then it doesn't only involve capital, it involves time. Mr. Poddar gives possibly 14 hours of his day on a business, and so do so many employees, stakeholders, partners. We are not doing any of this for free. So this is not any sort of a social engagement. I'm sure each one of us does that in our own way. So that definitely is not a possibility either.
Lovely, lovely, Umar. Ram and Himanshu, if you could just put some thought on this part of it, the automation into the customer engagement and the trust, the regular updates. What is your take going to be in the last 5-6 minutes, whatever that we can summarize them?
So, discussion with your customer in terms of their feedback. We have a lot of repeat customers in terms of the way of communication, the grapevine method of building the brand. It's your people, it's people who've already bought from you, are your biggest ambassadors of your brand, right? It's very important that those people, you're always in communication with them, you're always in touch with them, and creating WhatsApp groups within the community of the people that live, being a part of it, interacting with them, going back to the service point of view, what can be done better, and how you keep innovating with yourself, taking their feedback is very important. So that is, I think, a very important part of the customer feedback point of view from automation. So we are actually focusing on that, and in our we do a lot of redevelopment. So in redevelopment, the existing society, now for example, we're currently launching a project with existing 50 families, 200 people living in the building. So in the old building, another so it's one of the largest number of people living in this area for one building. So being in touch with each of them, giving them continuous updates, giving them the slab cycles, giving them the delivery time, that builds a great sense of faith and security for your future business prospect and for your sales.
Lovely, lovely, Ram. Himanshu, your take on the same.
Yeah, so to build any sort of credibility, as Ram just said, your biggest end user is your biggest critic. So, and probably
I'm sorry to intervene, but could you see, because you are JLL, right? You're somewhere in between. You're not the developer. You're not the end user. So right. You are bothered about, and when you are advising your the developers, you're bothered about only the short term, or you are advising them on the long term strategies and engagement and using technology. So what's that take? I wanted you to address it from this take as well.
So it's both long term and short term. So while you're thinking about short term, it's the shorter term costs that you need to think of. And while you're thinking from a long term perspective, it's more towards the processes that you build towards the future that will give you longer term returns. So we kind of handhold all of our developer partners into thinking what can be the short term low hanging fruits that you can quickly grab on. So as we just said, your biggest fans or critics can be your end users. So having in all of your communication, probably you can use their reviews as a part of your marketing, whether be it your ads on Facebook or be it your ad or emailers or maybe your WhatsApp communications. So all of those reviews, since unlike a mutual fund, this is real estate where the mutual funds, the regulator has various restrictions against publishing reviews and advertisements. Real estate, there are no such restrictions because we do not have any Black Fridays like mutual funds. The market kind of increases prices or reduces prices over a period of time, unlike the stock market. This is a very, very stable market as compared to the financial markets that we have seen over the past few time. The other way around is to constantly, as we were just talking about this, we can constantly keep our customer updated. So WhatsApp as a channel, everyone uses it. While it does not allow you to do any sort of promotional activities, it does allow you to send transactional messages, which I see a lot of real estate developers have recently started using. In fact, aggregators are also doing it. So what you can do is you can take you can actually ask the end user to give us the consent to send them WhatsApp messages. And once you get that consent, you can send automated replies telling them the various stages of construction, how much the project has been completed, any other updates. So WhatsApp as a channel can be used very effectively, and it's being used by various aggregators and by us as well to effectively communicate the right message and stay connected to the end user. That is where you can build the trust with the end customer.
So, Mr. Rohit, last for you, you have such a big customer base, such a big legacy. So, what do you do to remain in touch with your existing customer or the prospect customers?
So just to go back on what Omar was actually saying before, I fully agree with his view, and I keep telling my friends, my family, my kids as well the same question, right? How does one build trust in life? Right? It's a graph. It's called expectation versus reality, right?
Yeah.
When expectation is very high and reality is very low, it leads to a trust deficit. When you have expectation here and you have reality at a higher level, then this basically builds trust, right? By doing this over a long period of time, you create trust with people that are around you. So you must do what you say and say what you do, right? So let's say, for example, I'm a friend of yours, Govind, as an example, and we're chatting on the phone, and I make 4 loose comments on the phone, and those things don't turn out to be true. You'll think I'm a bullshitter, right? And the trust will basically become zero, right?
Absolutely.
So it's very important to be mindful that what one does and says affects another person's life, right? And hence how one conducts oneself, what promises one makes to yourself and to the other is of paramount importance. When you have an organizational culture that does that basically is truthful, that's honest, that does what they say on a minute-to-minute basis, hour-to-hour basis, day-to-day basis, and year-to-year basis, you basically build trust within yourself. When you do the same thing with external people, all your stakeholders, you build trust with them. When you do that with all your customers, you build trust with the customers. So this is your ecosystem, right? When you do this over and over again over a period of time, then you basically build what's called a brand, right? So like they said, there's zero shortcut. Luckily, Ram and Mia, the custodians of very old brands. In our case, we've been in Mumbai now for more than a century. So we're very lucky to have a brand that speaks about trust, which is why customers buy from us. 95% of the reason they're buying from us is because of the brand values over different businesses, and it's been built over 130 years just in Mumbai. So there's no shortcut in life. Life is a journey. One must be mindful of one's karma on a day-to-day basis, and if one is mindful of one's karma on a day-to-day basis, everything else will take care of itself. So look within you, act responsibly to yourself. Tell all your colleagues will look at you in the same way. They start behaving in the same way, and over a period of time, you build a brand.
Brilliant ending note in a way, Rohit. It's a great insight that you gave, and of course, with a brand like yours, and what Ram is also catering to, the responsibility is also huge on the other side, on your shoulders. So with that, Midanjali will pass on the baton again to you. I believe we are running short of the time now. So yeah.
So I would like to thank all the speakers. Thank you to our moderator. Thank you to all the attendees for joining us. We were not able to take all the questions today because of the limited time. So you can write to us, and we apologize again that only 100 attendees could participate. Next time, we promise that we'll increase the limit to 500.
Yeah, I saw that there are 10 messages. I've seen that they are not able to enter into the session. I don't know what has happened. You got to check the back end. There are many messages that I have received that they're not able to enter. So look into it.
Yeah. If I can just add, if you call good-looking boys like Ram, many girls will also join the next time.
that's.
So please have a separate queue for them.
You've been home for 2 hours.
Nowhere behind as well, yeah. Mr. Poddar, me and you, I will keep in the same category for a while.
Yeah, we are the father of 3 and 2 dogs. So we are not no one has any interest in us. Ram's the person who's in demand.
I'm also a father now, by the way.
I know. For only one kid.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah.
So next time we'll make sure that we'll be able to increase the limit up to 500. So this webinar has been recorded for people who were not able to join. We'll be uploading this webinar on our YouTube and Facebook channel, RealtyNXT. If you have any questions or you want to associate with us for upcoming series of webinars, you can write to us at info@realtynxt.com. This event is brought to you by RealtyNXT. This is Midanjali Rawal signing off.